Marcus is 41, works as a structural engineer in Denver, and last March he called me with what he thought was a good news story. He'd finally done it. He'd finally gotten over his fear of investing. He'd spent 3 weeks reading articles, watching videos, asking colleagues, and every single source pointed him to the same sector. Everyone agreed it was the play. His coworker was in it. His brother-in-law was in it. 3 separate finance podcasts said it was the obvious choice for 2024. So Marcus put in $22,000, his entire emergency fund. 6 weeks later, he'd lost $9,400 of it. Here's the thing. Marcus didn't make an analytical mistake. He made a consensus mistake, and those are completely different problems. When everyone agrees something is a good investment, the price already reflects that agreement. You're not buying an opportunity. You're buying the receipt for someone else's opportunity. That's the trap nobody names clearly enough, and I know this trap personally. I fell into it hard. In late 2017, I watched crypto go from a niche conversation to the only conversation. My barber was talking about it. My dentist mentioned it during a cleaning. I'd been following it for years at that point. I actually understood the underlying idea, but the moment it felt safe was the moment the crowd had already arrived. I bought in February 2018 at what I told myself was still early. I put in $14,000. By August, I had $4,200 left. And the worst part? I knew better. I'd read enough market history to understand what late-cycle consensus looks like. But knowing it and feeling it are two completely different things. The feeling of missing out was louder than the knowledge. That's primal. That's the wiring we're all fighting against. Now, why does this keep happening? Why do smart, educated people like Marcus, like me, keep buying at the exact wrong moment? Because your brain reads consensus as evidence of safety. That's not a character flaw. That's evolution. For 200,000 years, if the whole tribe was running in one direction, you ran with them. The one guy who stopped to question it got eaten. Social agreement was survival. But markets punish the herd at the top and reward the loner at the bottom. The mechanism that kept your ancestors alive is the exact mechanism that transfers wealth out of your account and into someone else's. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. In 2008, a study by Citigroup looked at analyst ratings across the S&P 500 going back 15 years. What they found was staggering. When a stock hit a consensus buy rating from 90% or more of analysts, it underperformed the market over the next 12 months 71% of the time. 71%. The more people agreed it was good, the more likely it was to disappoint. And yet that's the exact moment retail investors flood in. That's the moment Marcus moved his emergency fund. Let me introduce you to a second person here, because this story needs a contrast. Her name is Janet. She's 58, a retired high school principal from outside Cleveland, and she's not someone you'd peg as a sophisticated investor. She reads 2 newspapers a day, actual paper, and keeps a notebook where she tracks what people around her are talking about financially. In early 2020, Janet noticed something. Nobody was talking about stocks. Her neighbors weren't talking about it. Her adult kids weren't talking about it. The news was wall-to-wall fear. She called her broker in March 2020, specifically on March 18th, which turned out to be 4 days before the exact market bottom, and said she wanted to move $40,000 from her money market account into an index fund. Her broker talked her out of it, said it was too risky, said to wait. She pushed back. She moved $28,000 anyway, which was all she could convince herself to do in that moment of terror. By March 2022, that $28,000 was worth $61,000. A 117% gain in 2 years. Not because Janet is a genius analyst, because she'd trained herself to read silence the same way other people read headlines. When nobody's talking about an asset class, she gets curious. When everybody is, she gets cautious. That's the entire contrarian framework. Right there. It's not complicated. It's just extraordinarily hard to actually do. So what does this mean for you, practically? Here's the reframe I want you to carry out of this video. Stop thinking of widespread agreement as validation. Start thinking of it as a pricing warning. When you see 94% analyst buy ratings, when your coworkers are all in the same trade, when 3 separate podcasts are calling something obvious, that consensus is information. It's telling you the price already includes everyone's optimism. There's nothing left to unlock. The question isn't, is this a good asset? The question is, who's left to agree with me after I buy? Because if everyone already agrees, the only direction sentiment can move is toward disagreement. And when sentiment moves toward disagreement, prices follow. Now, if you're thinking, okay, so I should just do the opposite of whatever's popular, stop. That's not it either. Being reflexively contrarian is just another form of herd behavior, except you're following the anti-herd instead of the herd. Both are lazy substitutes for actual thinking. What Janet did wasn't automatic. She felt the fear in March 2020. She read the headlines. She had the same biological response as everyone else. The difference was she'd built a practice. She tracked the temperature of conversations around her over time, and she'd learned to treat high temperature as a sell signal and low temperature as a buy signal. You can build that same practice, and it costs nothing. Here's the specific thing I'd ask you to do. Start a simple log. Doesn't need to be a spreadsheet. Your Notes app works. Every time you hear a financial topic come up in a non-financial conversation, at a dinner table, in a waiting room, from a relative who never talks about money, write it down. Note the date and the asset. Do this for 90 days. What you'll end up with is a personal consensus tracker, a record of when the crowd arrived. And the crowd always arrives late. Always. If you're someone who earns a steady income, considers yourself thoughtful about money, but keeps finding that the things you buy seem to peak right after you buy them, this is your pattern. This is the thing underneath the thing. It's not your stock picks. It's your timing relative to crowd consensus. And timing relative to consensus is a behavior you can actually change. Marcus, by the way, didn't give up. He called me 2 months after that painful loss and asked a different question. Not, what should I buy? But, how do I know when too many people already own it? That was the shift. That was his turning point. The investors who consistently build wealth over decades aren't the ones with the best information. They're the ones who've learned that their instinct to agree, to follow the herd to safety, is precisely the instinct that has to be questioned every single time. Consensus feels like a green light. In markets, it's almost always a yellow one. Tonight, pull up whatever investment you're most excited about right now, the one that feels obvious and safe. Then search how many analysts rate it a buy. Look at how many articles from the last 30 days call it a strong opportunity. Count them. If the number is high, sit on it for 30 days before touching it. Just 30 days. Let the temperature cool. See if the excitement fades or compounds. That pause is where real returns live.